Welcome into the Inside Indiana show. I'm Editor-in-Chief Ken Bikoff along with publisher Ed Magoni. And the Hoosiers drop a heartbreaker to Virginia at Memorial Stadium last Saturday, 34-31, in a game in which, Ed, they made up a 20-point second-half deficit, rallied in a way that I don't think a lot of people thought that they had in them, but at the end you still had the same result.
Yeah, it was a disappointing finish there for the Hoosiers, actually to both halves. They gave up 10 points in the last less than a minute in the first half, and then they gave up another 11 points in about a minute and a half in the second half. So, that was basically 3 or 4 minutes of football that just killed the whole game for them. I mean, if they could have finished out either half strongly, maybe it's a different story at the end of the game.
It was an odd game because of the fact that I know personally watching it, I walked away a lot less discouraged about this team than I was after the Ball State game. It was the first game with Ball State at Lucas Oil Stadium, but the team just looked lackluster out there the entire time. This time along, they followed behind big, but they did bounce back, and they showed some heart, ran off 28 straight points, made some plays on offense and defense, and seemed to really kind of answer Kevin Wilson's desire for them to play with a little bit more energy.
Oh, there's no question about that, Ken. I mean, they definitely... I thought, to be honest, I figured after the opening turnover of the second half, the interception by Edroy Baker there, I figured that Indiana was pretty much done, and they fell behind 23-3, and they rallied back, took the lead. They probably should have won the game, and then they just gave up that long drive at the end, and the turnover at the end killed them, or denied them overtime at least. But unfortunately, that's the way it goes sometimes. It was still, like you said, a much better effort, I thought, overall from the Hoosiers. They really gave it 100%. They didn't quit. Like Coach Shep always used to say, don't quit. They certainly didn't quit. And I thought, for the most part, they played their hearts out, and they played with a lot of energy and enthusiasm the whole game.
Well, I think, too, it's a matter of belief with this team. I know we talked to Coach Wilson at his weekly press conference, and he kind of discounted the belief part of it about just the players not believing that they could come back and pull off such a win or make the stop when they need to. Actually, I think it was Doug Mallory that we talked to about that. To me, though, I think it goes back. You mentioned Coach Hep, the whole idea of his old saying that if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And I think that the Hoosiers need a little bit of success in closing out these games if they're going to take the next step forward.
Yeah, I think, if they had beaten Virginia on Saturday, I think that would have changed the mindset that they can beat a quality football team. They can come from behind and beat a quality football team. If they fall behind early, it doesn't necessarily mean it's over. But then again, last year's team, I think, really honestly would have packed it in when they fell behind 23-3. So that's obviously a step forward from that perspective, that the Hoosiers battled back and got the lead and had a very, very good chance of winning that game. Probably, like I said, should have won the game. And Kevin Wilson said the same thing about, we probably should have won that game. They just need to get over the hump. They're getting closer. They're 3/4 of the way up the hump. They just need to crest it and get over top of it. But it's just a matter of winning a ball game against a good team in a close game, and I think that maybe the thing that they get the whole season rolling forward.
You mentioned Coach Lynch last year, and I know that one of the attitudes of Coach Lynch was always that you could get something positive out of a game, whether it be the way the team closed out a half, whether they opened a half well. He was a positive guy. This current coaching staff, I won't say that they're not positive. It's just it seems that they won't sugarcoat it a little bit, and this is what Coach Wilson had to say about what the Hoosiers got out of the game, considering it was a loss.
That we still can stay locked on, and we got to keep working on blitz looks, coverage looks, and we cut some receivers loose a couple times. Same time, a couple times we're lucky, got away, we got some hands up, batted a few balls. There was just a greater effort, and that was pleasing. It still can be so much better, and we're just going to keep try to keep building. We need to keep building. We're not. We made some strides week 1 to week 2, but we still no moral victories. Our goal is to win. We blew it. We had an opportunity to get it closed out. We didn't, and the deal's to win games. And it's nice we improved some, but that ain't good enough because we still lost.
Well, Ed, certainly Coach Wilson isn't a guy that is just going to say, hey, we won a moral victory. And as far as I'm concerned, that might be a good thing for this team because it does raise the expectations on everybody.
Oh, absolutely. I think, you get in that mindset, and I had that mindset. It's been obvious the last couple of seasons that, if we play close enough, that's good enough. Or if we give somebody a game, I think DeMarlo Belcher actually said it before last game. He said, "We'll see if we can't give Virginia a game this week." That's not the mindset you want to hear from one of your senior leaders. You want them to say, "We're going to go out there and win this football game." Now, maybe you don't want them to say that publicly, but you want them to have that mindset. And when a player says the opposite in an interview with the media, that projects the exact opposite mindset that you'd like to establish with your team, especially as a new coaching staff. And, Coach Wilson also said that, they came out a little bit sluggish yesterday in practice, and he made them restart at the practice, basically saying that they were running most of the day because they schlepped off at the beginning. But that's the kind of enforcement I'd like to see. Some toughness, some accountability for the players who aren't given 110% like they're expected to. And I think that's what this coaching staff is establishing. And the improvement from game 1 to game 2, I think, tells you that it's coming.
Exactly. And the good news is they have another week to play. In fact, they have South Carolina State this weekend at Memorial Stadium, 3:30 Eastern Time. And when we come back, we'll take a look at the Bulldogs.
What's up, Worker? How's it going? What's up, buddy? You doing good? Come on, let me in!
Want to get inside Indiana? Call 800-282-GO-IU today to get the best in-depth coverage you'll find anywhere on the Indiana Hoosiers. You'll get 12 full-color glossy issues packed with the Hoosier news you crave, plus our exclusive online express edition featuring game previews, reviews, and much, much more, all for just $49.95. Inside Indiana. You can't get closer to IU athletics without a scholarship.
Somebody in there! Let me in! Please!
Welcome back into the Inside Indiana show. Now, Ed, when we went to break, we were talking a little bit about the Hoosiers' next opponent, South Carolina State. They're a school from the MEAC. Now, it's a team that is the former Division I AA. Now they call it the Football Championship Subdivision. But the bottom line is the Hoosiers, just because they're playing a 1AA team, doesn't mean that it's an automatic win, because the Hoosiers, of course, a couple years ago, I think they lost to Southern Illinois. It was a 1AA team in a game in which Terry Hepner was out recovering from brain surgery. What kind of challenges do you see from a team like South Carolina State that is coming in very hungry and ready to prove themselves?
Well, I think Kevin Wilson probably said it best in the press conference earlier today. He said that a lot of these kids are Division I quality talents who, for whatever reason, didn't want to wait a year to transfer to another Division I school, so they came down to play at the FCS level. And, they're still very good football players. They're just at a smaller school now. And, we saw Delaware State beat Michigan a couple years back. I mean, it's not...
Appalachian State.
Appalachian State, I'm sorry. Appalachian State beat Michigan at Michigan.
Yep.
And I believe Minnesota lost to a Division...
That sounds right.
A Division I AA school a couple years ago. So, it's certainly not impossible if Indiana takes this team lightly like they did. If they don't come out and play like they did, if they come out and play like they did against Ball State, they're going to have a lot of problems with this team, because this team has team speed, and it may not have a great passing game, as you told me earlier, but certainly, they have the defense to hang with Central Michigan, which is a solid MAC team. They only lost 20-6 to Central Michigan, I believe it was. And, so we'll see. Central Michigan almost beat Kentucky last week. They gave them a heck of a game down there in Lexington. So, South Carolina State isn't to be taken lightly. Plus, they're relatively strong in their own conference.
Yeah.
So, you have to take that into account. That these guys are used to winning football games. It doesn't matter who they're playing.
Well, I know that they are three-time defending champs of the MEAC, in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. And I know that is a conference that is filled with athleticism. It's filled with speed. It's filled with guys who as people might say, aren't great football players, but they're great athletes. And they don't maybe fit into a category. South Carolina State likes to run the football. They are the worst passing team in college football, be it FBS level or FCS level. They are dead last. Averaging, they've thrown for a total of 132 yards this year, and I think 1 touchdown, but they have a decent quarterback in Derek Wiley, a guy that is leading the team in rushing. Isn't the most accurate guy passing the ball. He's completing under 50% of his passes, but certainly that's an area to where Indiana might be able to build a little bit of confidence against the Bulldogs.
If Indiana's secondary doesn't have to, be too concerned with the passing game, certainly they should allow the front 7 to cut loose a little bit this week and maybe establish a pass rush and actually clog the rushing lanes and maybe force them into some uncomfortable situations where they have to throw the football. The players on this level tend to be a little bit smaller. Kevin Wilson said that they look strong and lean, but they're not as big as IU's players. And maybe IU will be able to establish a running game with Matt Perez and give Edward Wright Baker a little bit of leniency instead of making him win the game. They can just manage the game more so than having to make play after play after play to try to win a football game.
Well, one thing that we know for sure, Ed, is that Coach Wilson's going to have these guys in the right frame of mind, and part of that is going to be because he's going to lean on his senior leadership, including one of those senior leaders you mentioned earlier, Damarlo Belcher, who will be with us right after these messages.
It's a new year. There's a new buzz. And there's a new Inside Indiana magazine. For more than 20 years, Inside Indiana has been your best source for the kind of in-depth coverage of Hoosier athletics you crave, and now the best just got better. By calling 800-282-GO-IU, you can experience 12 packed issues dedicated to Indiana athletics in full-color glossy brilliance for only $49.95. But that's not all. You'll also receive access to our new Inside Indiana Express edition online, featuring game previews, news, photos, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? To stay up to date on the Kevin Wilson era and all the excitement surrounding Tom Crean's Hoosiers, plus all the news you want on the rest of Hoosier athletics, call 800-282-GO-IU today. Inside Indiana. You can't get closer to IU athletics without a scholarship.
Welcome back into the Inside Indiana show. Ken Bikoff along with Ed Magoni. And Ed, we talked a little bit about Damarlo Belcher earlier, and Damarlo Belcher is right now at Memorial Stadium with Inside Indiana's Courtney Cronin.
All right, thanks, Ed and Ken. Joined alongside senior wide receiver Damarlo Belcher, I'm Courtney Cronin. Damarlo, first off, let's say congratulations on becoming IU's second best career receptions with 172. How did that feel knowing that after that game?
I didn't even actually know it until my roommate told me about it, but, obviously it feels pretty good. I got something to achieve this year, so, I'll definitely try my best to break it.
Now, when we found that out, it didn't seem like there was much of a passing game going on. Let's talk about Ed Wright Baker now. How have you been able to evaluate him? Maybe you haven't gotten the ball as much as you would have liked so far this season, but him as a quarterback still learning. How are you teaching him out there on the field, how to read his open routes and how to be, get yourself more open for him to pass to?
One of the things, Ed's still young, and, he's still got a lot of games left, so, he's going to develop over the games. And, another thing is, we got a talented group of receivers. We got a nice deep core, and everybody can make plays. So, I tell Ed to just get in the film room and watch a lot of film. That's the best way to get better. So, I think he's been in a film room watching a lot of film. So that's probably the only way he can get better.
And that's something that Coach Wilson was talking about as well, that if he's going to become a better quarterback, he needs to be in there along with Dusty, and those are the guys that, there still is really a true competition here for quarterback where, there's no set position. Dusty may be able to come in at some point, and even Trey Roberson. But as a senior leader on this team, you see your team right now down 0-2, heading into your third game of the season. What's the game plan going on from here on out to be able to grab your first win this Saturday?
The same as it's always been. We just got to execute, our plays. And, the last two games was obviously close. So, we not too far away. So we just got to keep pushing, getting better each day, and, execute our game plan.
Now, something a lot of people don't talk about is, we hear red zone defense all the time, but the red zone offense, there were 2 blown opportunities in the first half of the game. I'm sure you know I'm going with this. How exactly do you guys choose to learn really to get better at that, being able to work inside the 20?
I mean, in order to win, you got to score touchdowns. So whenever you get down in the red zone, you got to take advantage of your opportunities. So, that's one thing we practice a lot in practice. So, we go down to the red zone and we practice a lot of plays that we're going to do in the game. So, we just got to execute, like I said before, and take advantage when we're in the red zone.
Now, this is your last year, so you want to be able to make sure you're making a big appearance every single game. Looking towards the NFL, I know that was something that you told me at Media Day when Coach Wilson came in. He told you just flat out weren't ready for it. How have things changed this year, though, heading into Game 3 when you're looking down the line? You don't have that many more games left to prove yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely going by fast. Those 2 games, they got here before I even knew it. And, I just got to take it game by game. And once Ed feel like he's ready and, once he get to throwing the ball better, maybe it'll change for me. So we just have to wait and see.
Now, a little bit more of a fun question, stepping away really from the game of football. Those white helmets, the new uniforms, what do you think about them in the debut at home last week?
I think I love them, and I think the fans like them too. And, Coach always talking about having swag, so I think that's what he went out and did for us. It got us some new uniforms. And, like Deion Sanders said, you look good, you play good. So, we definitely played good. We just didn't come out with the result that we wanted. So.
All right, thanks, Damarlo. Ed and Ken, back to you. Maybe you guys can work on your appearance a little bit and gain a little bit more swag.
Thanks a lot, Courtney. Now, Ed, Damarlo Belcher is a guy that may have been overlooked a little bit by people because all Tandon Doss brought to the table for the Hoosiers. He's a kid that is one of the best wide receivers in IU history. I mean, the numbers play out. He's only 19 catches behind James Hardy for the all-time to be the all-time leader in the receptions list. 6th player in IU history to go over 2,000 yards receiving. Is Belcher a guy that maybe is a little bit unappreciated in his time at IU?
Oh, I think he was, he played 3 years basically in Tandon Doss's shadow. Or 3 years in Tandon Doss's shadow, even though he put up numbers equally as good or better than Tandon Doss. Of course, he has Tandon to thank for some of those numbers because he was drawing a lot of coverage and attention, as Damarlo is doing now for his teammates like Kofi Hughes and Deweese Wilson and Cody Latimer and the freshman wide receivers. He's drawing constant double teams now. He's got the safety, leaning to that side of the field, and he's opening up the middle for other players to succeed and have success. But IU needs to continue to try to find ways to get the ball. He's a playmaker. He's a big body, tall. He can outjump his defensive counterparts in the defensive backfield, and he's got big hands that can cradle the ball and go up and snatch it out of the air. And I think he's going to have a big game this week against South Carolina State.
And he's consistent, too. He's riding a streak of 27 straight games with at least 2 receptions, which is, for any wide receiver, just getting the ball is part of the key. He does that for the Hoosiers every week. Now, South Carolina State's going to do their best to try to keep Damarlo Belcher and the Hoosiers under wraps. But when we get back, me and Ed are going to unwrap our predictions for Saturday's game.
What's up, worker? How's it going? What's up, buddy? You doing good? Come on, let me in!
Want to get inside Indiana? Call 800-282-GO-IU today to get the best in-depth coverage you'll find anywhere on the Indiana Hoosiers. You'll get 12 full-color glossy issues packed with the Hoosier news you crave, plus our exclusive online express edition featuring game previews, reviews, and much, much more, all for just $49.95. Inside Indiana. You can't get closer to IU athletics without a scholarship.
Somebody in there! Let me in! Please!
Welcome back into the Inside Indiana show. Ed, turned out we were right all last week because we picked Virginia to win, although it looked like the Hoosiers were going to pull that off. This week against South Carolina State, how do you think the Hoosiers fare?
Well, I just don't think ultimately that South Carolina State's going to be able to put up enough points on Indiana to stay with the Hoosiers' high-powered offense. I mean, Indiana put up 31 against Virginia, which had a pretty solid defensive unit, and it had strength where IU's strength was in the defensive backfield, covering IU's wide receivers. I know that South Carolina State has a solid defense, but I don't think they're on the level of Virginia's defense. And I really believe that IU's passing game is going to put up some big numbers this week, as well as the running game have some success. And like I said earlier, and take the pressure off Edward Wright Baker so that he can go play action and go deep to DeMarlo and Deweese Wilson and Kofi Hughes down the field a little bit more. And I think IU's defense is also going to be able to shut down the run, put South Carolina State in some uncomfortable positions of having to throw the football in 3rd and long situations. Then you have guys like Greg Heben and Lawrence Barnett back there who have shown the ability to take advantage of turnovers when they come their way.
I like the Hoosiers in this one too. I think South Carolina State, for all the athleticism that they have and the quickness, the Hoosiers, I think, are going to be playing with a little bit of an edge here because, again, they just missed last week. I really think that they're going to bounce back a lot stronger this week. And, again, South Carolina State really struggles to throw the football, and I think the Hoosiers take care of business on this one and pick up their first win of the season. Well, that's all the time that we have for right now on the Inside Indiana show. For Ed Magoni, I'm Ken Bikoff. Thanks for watching, and pace yourself.